Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Wex. So today I wanted to talk about Path of Exile 2, the game released since last week. We all have time to play it. First of all, I really like the game. I do think for $30, the game is amazing. Now, I do think though there is something that needs to be changed, or perhaps like maybe reviewed on the dev sides. So my experience with Path of Exile so far was great. I started building a sorceress right away. I found like a really good lighting staff, so I was able to, level up as a sorceress and go with the lighting and fire combo till probably Act 2. And then after that, I respec to freeze build because I saw how broken it was and, ended up doing that instead. And as soon as I did this, the next day it got nerfed. So I got hit with that nerf. And after that, it was really hard because the cast on freeze was not working the same way. The whole game is based on gold. You need gold to respec, buy gear, gamble some gear, but the respec is really expensive. So everyone that got hit with that nerf, obviously, it kind of sucks for sure. Like, I was a little bit frustrated, I'm not gonna lie. But in my case, I had like some gold, but I don't have enough. And on top of it, I realized that during the first day that the game released, I for some reason have two accounts. So I have my Path of Exile account that is from the website, but I installed my game on Steam and Steam made me a second account. And so I realized my Twitch drops were all on the Path of Exile account and not on the Steam account. So anyway, I'm gonna restart a new character today because at this point my sorceress is kind of chalked and I don't have anything else to, upgrade and so on. I saw people talking about Path of Exile online and how there is some issues with the game. And I think my favorite take was from Riker. So we're just gonna react to his video and then I'm just gonna add my grain of salt on that. I did see many other people talking about Path of Exile, but whatever Riker said about the game right now is probably what I feel personally as well.
So, we're 1 week into the life of Path of Exile 2, and it's been one hell of a launch week. The game launched on Friday, and by Sunday, the Steam concurrent player peak hit just shy of 580,000. And that's just on Steam, not counting console players or people using the dedicated launcher like me. So I think the real number was easily 1 million. The game has received very positive user reviews on Steam, and on OpenCritic it has a top critic average score of 87 out of 100, with 100% of critics recommending the game. And while this is not yet my review, I will give the game my endorsement. People ask me, is PoE2 worth it? And for me, yes, it has been 100% worth it so far.
All right, so I'm going to stop the video here. What he's saying is, for me, 100%. People are asking me, do I recommend the game? 100%. For $30, it's like literally a no-brainer. We got charged way more money for other ARPGs. We got charged quadruple money for a game that have less content. So for me, for $30, honestly, it's a no-brainer. Now people are like, yeah, it's going to be free. Yeah, it is, but we don't know when it's going to come out. So I think they said like late 2025. How late? We don't know. So if you're waiting for the free game, that's all good, no problem. But if you're eager to play it and you're like, I'm gonna wait, I don't mind waiting for a year or 6 months, then, wait, it's no problem. But just to say that you might wait for more than 6 months.
I'm just about to get into the end game, but even if I were to start hating the game at that point, which I doubt is going to happen, but even if it were the case, I've still thoroughly enjoyed my journey there. And you get a ton of hours of fun and entertainment just in the campaign. I will hang one caveat, however. I fully recommend this game to any ARPG fan who is willing to take on a challenging gameplay experience. It's not quite Dark Souls, but it is the most challenging ARPG out there, apart from No Rest for the Wicked, which is full-on Dark Souls. So if you're open to a slower-paced, more challenging experience, then PoE2 will scratch your itch.
He's got it right here. So if you're looking for a game that is more casual, the game is actually meant for casual, to be honest. Everything is well explained. You just have to take the time to read, and I think it's all the mechanics are pretty intuitive, but there is a difficulty for sure. But I don't dislike it. I kind of liked it. It was rough at some time though. I will probably elaborate later. I never played Path of Exile 1. For me, it looked too complicated to pick up right away. And I really don't like that. I like complexity in a game, but I don't like it when you need a full guide to follow, otherwise your build is shocked. So I think Path of Exile 2 for sure is way easier to just jump in and go and have some fun.
But one thing I knew from the moment I first tried PoE2 at ExileCon in 2019 to when I tried it again at Gamescom last year was that PoE2 would not be for everyone. That a lot of PoE1 players who want the zoom, blow up entire screens of enemies in a millisecond while dropping enough loot to cause a NASA computer to seize up if you don't have a loot filter running, that kind of gameplay, yeah, people who are into that, probably not going to be too into PoE2. And that's why I was so smart of GGG to continue to support PoE1 and have both games coexist as their own separate entities, because they each offer very different experiences and can make different groups of players happy. PoE2 is basically the best realization of PoE's Ruthless mode. A mode that wasn't exactly popular in PoE1, but it works so much better with the new combat engine. I had zero interest in Ruthless and PoE1, but I'm loving PoE2. One of the game's greatest strengths is its boss designs. So many bosses, each unique both visually and from a gameplay perspective. Each has its own tricks you gotta learn to best counterplay them. I'm comfortable.
Honestly, I think for me, the most fun are the boss fight. And usually in RPGs, they're the least fun. They're always like meh. They're fun, but they're not like thrilling. Now, like the boss fights are really engaging. They're really well telegraphed, and they're like, there's this sense of like reward when you kill them. So like you have this like dopamine kicking in and be like, yes, I fucking did it, you know? So I really like that. And they're all different. You come across so many boss and you're like, surely at some point it's gonna repeat itself, and it doesn't. And it doesn't get easier. Of course, if you have like a really good build, like these boss like can get one shot. But for me, that was like not following any like guide or anything, because the game just came out. Like everyone was kind of just testing stuff. I really enjoyed myself, but it was kind of brutal. I'm not gonna lie. First time I died to like Act 1 boss, I was like, oh my god. But at the end, when I beat him, I was like, oh my god, that was really cool.
Comfortable with the current level of challenge in the game. I've seen some people call for nerfs to difficulty, especially at the start. But honestly, the start being a slap in the face is exactly the message that needs to be sent. This is not an easy game.
I agree with that.
Coddled early game only to then get stuck like at the Act 1 boss out of nowhere, that'll be a more frustrating experience than getting a nice slap in the face early on telling you that you're gonna have to get good. And I feel that the game actually gets easier as you go along, from a practical standpoint.
Honestly, he's right. When you come in the first time and you're just like walking around and you see like just like a regular mob can actually kill you, you're like, oh, okay, this is not just me walking. Like, it's not a walk in the park, okay? You have to pay attention to the game the whole fucking time. You will get one shot sometimes by like a regular mob, or you get like swarmed by a bunch of them and you die, okay? It happened to me so many times. They actually fixed that in the patch with the dodge roll. But yeah, I think the fact that they slap you with difficulty right away, it kind of sets the tone for you to be like, okay, I really gotta pay attention. I really gotta like build my class properly.
Replaying the campaign on Cruel was easier than playing it on Normal, because my build was really starting to come together at that point. I was optimizing my gear and my skill setup. Again, though, I am about to start mapping, so we'll see if my impression changes at that point. I'm loving the updated skill system, doing away with gear sockets. Such a great change. Spirit works wonderfully as an extra resource. Mana reservation, it was an interesting idea in theory, but in practice, the way it worked out just wasn't very fun. Now, one big complaint I'm seeing from players, or I was seeing, was about drop rates for loot and currency items. I actually was fine with the way things as they were, but I have to admit I got some really lucky drops. If you've either seen my stream...
Myself, I got some lucky drop right off the rip for my sorceress, so I was like, oh my god, thank god. The god of the video games with me. But I've seen a lot of people just not finding gear and stuff. So that was like the first 2-3 days. And then after that, they roll a patch that, may drop more item, more orbs and stuff. But I feel they're still not dropping enough. We need way more orbs. It's basically Gamba. And you might slap an orb and then it might be still shit, so you have to do it again and again.
Stream or my highlight video is going to be coming out hopefully tomorrow. You'll see some of my luck there. I got some really juicy drops. But I think one thing that I'm really liking about the loot system altogether is that I'm really happy that we don't need a loot filter. But within a couple of days post-launch, the devs released a patch that actually improved drops in a number of ways, including a sort of unlucky drop protection, you can say. And preliminary results have been very positive, and this actually has had a ripple effect onto other criticism of the game as well, because more loot and more currency means people are better able to tackle the difficulty, they're better able to engage with the crafting system, and...
Honestly, for me, because I was playing a sorceress, like, I had good loot at the beginning, but not really. I only start finding good stuff in Act 2. So when I started to find the good stuff, this is where I really realized how much gear dependent you are.
Just otherwise enjoy the game. And it definitely was the right idea to start off with loot undertuned, then overtuned. Nerfs to loot are never taken well. But one pain point I see brought up that so far I kind of agree with is Ascendancies. Or rather, getting your Ascendancies. The trials are frustrating. They're unforgiving, and
the trial, it's like such like... I kind of like it, but I really hate it at the same time. The first one is like you have the honor system where you can get hit. So you have, I don't know, 700 points of honor every time you get hit. So every time you take damage, it gets honor out of your honor pool. And you have many maps to do before to get to the boss, and then it's just a fucking hassle. And then when you get to the chaos trial, it sucks even more. So when they nerfed my sorceress, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try do the chaos trial anyways, because this is where I was in Act 2. I was actually about to finish Act 2, and I was like, I'm gonna do my trial to get my 2 extra ascendancy point and then finish Act 2, right? And I had to like start working on the weekend. So I was like, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to work. And then I'm going to finish Act 2 when I'm back from work. Oh my God, the Chaos Trial sucks. And it's basically just RNG. And the thing is these debuff follow you every room till the boss. So if you pick like the worst of the worst, it's going to follow you to the boss. And then you're going to die at the boss.
And you can easily fail at the very end, losing your entire run. Yep. I failed on my second Ascendancy trial. So I did the first one. I got my first 2 points. On my second one, I died right at the end against the boss. And now I'm just waiting to be massively overleveled before trying again. Because I'm loving the rest of the game.
No,
I'm loving the rest of the game too much to spend a good chunk of my game time doing something that doesn't bring me joy.
That's true.
And right now, I just don't feel like the trade-off in power that I would get from those 2 points is enough to put up with the extra frustration that I'm going to feel going through that again. Then add on to this that at later levels, Ascending is locked behind the RNG of actually finding a key to run the trial, and then that key is wasted if you fail. And yeah, I never thought I would, but I actually miss PoE 1's Labyrinth. Outside of that, I've seen criticism of the campaign length. Not that it's a problem that it's long, but that part of the reason it's long is because zones are just absolutely enormous, and they take forever to get.
The maps are so big and there's so many dead ends. And for me, like, I don't mind it, but the thing is like the maps are big and the density of monster is huge. Sometimes it takes a while to just do one map. So I would like to either reduce a little bit the map, because there was like not a lot of checkpoint. I know they changed that in the recent patch. They added more checkpoints, so that's kind of cool, because you would die mid-map. You would have to redo it if you didn't find a checkpoint, so the mob would all respawn, or you found the checkpoint, but all around you, all the mobs are back. So the second you move out of like the checkpoint, you get surrounded and die again. I got stuck at some point where I couldn't dodge roll out of it. Before they did like the patch of the dodge roll, I got stuck there. Like I couldn't move. I was like, oh my God, am I gonna have to like just restart the area completely? which fucking sucks. Like, so I think they need to work on either the density of monster or just reducing a little bit the map.
Get through, especially due to the general move speed in PoE2 being pretty low and the removal of most mobility skills. I'm not in favor of adding back in mobility skills and high-speed movement. Don't get me wrong, this is pretty contrary to how I normally feel in games. I love to zoom, I love mobility, I love movement skills, but we don't want to trivialize the best content in PoE2, which is the bosses, and they're designed and balanced around players not being able to just easily run circles around them, evading all their attacks. That said, it does feel a little unfair that our move speed is so slow, yet the speed of even just normal monsters.
I don't know if it's just me, but how many times did I, was fighting a boss and then I dodge roll out of like whatever, and then I was hitting like the little line a little too late. And then I died. I got one shot.
Can be so fast that sometimes we can't even keep away from them. It just feels like there's no counterplay when monsters are so fast that they can surround you even when you're dodge rolling away. Like, they come up to you, you dodge roll, and they're so fast that by the time you're even done dodge rolling, they've surrounded you again. But again, I did enjoy my campaign playthrough. Sure, there were a couple zones where I'm like, ooh, this is a really big zone. Some trimming, wouldn't hurt here and there. I hear maps as well. Endgame mapping, really big. And it's especially extra feels bad when you die and then all the monsters in a zone respawn. And if you aren't at a good checkpoint, then you basically have to work your way back through a ton of trash mobs. That's one thing that I really wasn't sold on. I totally understand. You die against a boss, okay, it resets, you got to redo the whole boss fight again.
Yeah.
Sure. But for every monster in a zone to respawn, that just kind of feels like a really weird punishment because it's not a challenge to go through all.
Like what he's saying, it's not a challenge to go through again, but it's just time consuming for nothing. Like, it doesn't give me more, and it's not like I get a ton of XP either. So yeah, you can farm, but farming just like an area that has nothing than just like regular mobs, there's no point. So it's like, it kind of feels more punishing than anything else, and I think that's what feels a little awkward right now. It's like, I get why they respawn, but at the same time, it feels punishing for us. So I think they'll have to like definitely balance that out a little bit.
All those monsters again, it's just costing you time. And again, apparently in endgame mapping, it's even worse because if you die one single time in a map, you lose the map entirely. You fail, you lose the key. Good day, sir. And given how big maps are and how long it takes to complete them, that's a lot of time a player needs to spend paying 100% attention to the game, because the slightest lapse in vigilance can mean a quick death that wastes the whole run and map key. Oh, and related, loot despawning if you die.
Oh.
Man, is that a feels bad moment. Imagine you kill a tough monster.
Guys, so the first time I beat Act 1 boss, I beat him on the most awkward way. We both died. I got him to one shot, and I was one shot too, and we just killed each other. So I was like, okay, I killed him, no big deal, right? I died, but he died too in the process. And then I went back to get the loot, hit despawn, and I was like, no, like, that sucks. There's already not tons of loot. Let me have the loot. Let me have it, bro. Like, it's really, honestly, it's unnecessary. I was so upset. On top of it, there's some boss sometimes you beat, and then they swarm you with regular mobs and you're one shot, so you die and you lose the loot anyways. It is overly punishing for nothing. I'm sorry, but let me have the fucking orb,
Monster, you see a unique drop, then there's some post-death explosion that instantly kills you. Ouch. The unique is gone, whether in campaign or in maps. And on that topic, I complained about these in Diablo 4. I'll complain about them in Path of Exile 2. Post-death revenge mechanics are not fun.
No, they're not.
I've not seen a lot of them in PoE2, thankfully. But
how many times in like Diablo 2 I would die to like, I don't know, I got one shot by Diablo, let's say, because my res were shit. And we ended up like just beating Diablo, and we just go back and get the loot. Like, don't punish us, It makes no sense.
Once you have defeated the monster, you feel really satisfied. You're past the climax of the moment. It's a release of tension, the danger is past, and then boom, a surprise FU from the game. It just results in players feeling like they need to be constantly paranoid, and it interrupts the typical emotional reward loop of defeating a monster and overcoming a challenge. We had these post-death monster one-shots in PoE1 because the extreme pace of the game basically required it. Without that, nothing really kills you. So we had to have those to retain some element of danger, but in PoE2, every fight is dangerous. Every fight can kill you. So it seems we don't really need to have these extra FU on-death revenge mechanics. On a somewhat related note, monsters, and especially bosses, they have their attacks really well telegraphed. But sometimes the visual noise, especially if you're running a minion build, like...
That's one thing. I died often because I was spamming like firewall, but sometimes I would die because I didn't see that little line of the pentacle that was like coming out of the ground, because I was spamming so much shit on the boss that I couldn't even see the ground. So I stopped using firewall because I couldn't see. I couldn't dodge the attack. It was like, they need to figure out a bit the way things appear, because I couldn't see shit. I'm gonna be really honest. I died so many times just because I couldn't see anything. Yeah, if you're Source Swiss, rip. Big rip.
Like I am. I got all my an army of minions, and I'm summoning a bunch of firewalls. There's just so much stuff on screen.
Yeah.
It can make it tough to read the battlefield in a game where it's really important to read the battlefield. And I've also found myself confused by the environments at times. I'm like getting stuck on invisible walls. I'm not understanding why my character's not moving, because sometimes the walls
that happened to me too.
Don't look like walls. Like there's a shallow pond, and I don't understand that my character can't actually take a step.
Dude, I am sure the shallow pond he's talking about, it's for sure in the Chaos Trial. There is like literally like a pond that looks part of like the path, but it's not. And I got stuck there. I got swarmed and I died. And I was like, what? That was not part of the map? Like
in an inch of water. So I always have to be looking
at the overlay
map or the mini map in the corner in order to ensure that I understand where the walls are. Not a huge deal until you're getting surrounded by monsters and wondering, why is my character not moving away? Now again, while I've thoroughly enjoyed my campaign playthrough, I am not exactly eager to repeat the experience on multiple other characters. And I know this is a point of contention in the PoE community. I know some...
Honestly, for me, I kind of feel that way, but I'm so excited to try all the class, like I'll gladly do it. My only thing, it's like, we all know it's early access right now, so I know what they want to do is make sure everyone tests some builds. If there's some broken builds, they're going to nerf it. They're going to adjust the game as it goes. And also they want us to test the end game. So it is understandable. I think whenever there's going to be like actual Act 4, 5, 6 with different bosses and like the storyline and stuff, it's going to be more enjoyable. Right now, it feels like a bit like D2. You would go through Act 1 to 5, go to Nightmare, do Act 1 to 5 again through Nightmare and Hell. So right now it feels like that. Am I bothered? Meh. I'm not excited, but it's an early access. I'm not really complaining. For me, it's okay. You know, I can have so much fun doing different builds that I don't mind restarting.
Some people in the community have been asking for a campaign skip button for years, but I know others feel the campaign is an important and an integral part of the game and should not be skipped. And I'm not going to say what the devs should or should not do here. I'm not going to say add a campaign skip. What I will say is I am less likely to make another character because the thought of playing through the campaign again is daunting. Again, I really enjoyed my playthrough, but I also really enjoyed the Netflix series Arcane, but I don't feel like watching it again right now because I've already watched it. But anyway, in that same patch that buffed item and currency drops, the devs also implemented more checkpoints in big maps and the ability to
really
teleport between checkpoints you've already discovered, which actually hugely addresses a lot of the complaints surrounding the size of maps and the respawning monsters. You don't have to full clear a map again if you can just teleport forward to a checkpoint. It was a great way to resolve the issues people were bringing up without like increasing move speed, for instance, or giving us mobility powers. And another complaint that the devs addressed with this patch was about the dodge rolls. People were complaining about getting surrounded by monsters too easily and not being able to dodge roll out of them. This was especially silly
I
when you
think
were
it
surrounded
was
by a ton of
like at
tiny
the
monsters,
beginning
like those little
though.
beetles.
Now it's fine.
And it just feels like your character should be able to just like step over them. Anyway, they've made changes to the dodge roll so that while we still can be surrounded and blocked in, we could more easily dodge roll through small gaps in enemy groups. And we can now push back small monsters when we dodge roll. Excellent changes there. Excellent changes everywhere. In fact, the whole patch, just a huge win. Again, addressing pretty much all major criticism with the game. Cast on X builds were gutted. Respec. Respec was a real issue for new players in PoE1. Farming. Okay, skill X got
I'm gonna
nerfed.
skip ahead.
All builds using skill X automatically get a full respec. Respec was a real issue for new players in PoE1. Farming Orbs of Regret was easy for advanced players in endgame, but impossible for new players early in the game. A new player would easily brick their first character and have to start a new one. Now, with respec being governed with gold, I did a ton of respecing at low level. But I see some people saying that the high level respec is way too expensive. I'm not there yet, so I can't weigh in myself, but it seems we have now the opposite problem that we had in PoE1. Now, speaking of respec, the passive tree. One thing I'm finding is that I'm spending a lot of my points just grabbing attribute nodes. It feels like, in general, attribute requirements are really high in PoE2.
I always like at some point I found a good item and then like you don't have enough intelligence. And I'm like, okay, but I need those other nodes to, you know, build my elemental damage or whatever like the need for. And I was like, why is the requirement so high? Leveling is slow. Glad I'm not the other one thinking that. I do think the requirements for stuff are high. It comes to like if you find good loot with good attributes that gives you more strength, dexterity, or intelligence, great, but I haven't. Like, I didn't found much. And crafting, I did my best with what I found, but didn't find anything great.
PoE1 had more interesting nodes to path to in the tree. Well, I do find stuff that is good for my build. It's not that I run out of things that I need. I just don't find a lot of that stuff to be really exciting. The way, like, PoE1 would have some really build-changing stuff that you'd be excited to path towards. And because of the steep attribute requirements, it would be nice to have an easier way to get lower level skill gems. Like if I have a level 13 uncut skill gem, that should allow me to craft any skill gem up to level 13 in case I need one that has, lower stat requirements. Currently, I'd have to go to some lower level zone where I would just guess that it's going to drop that level of gem, and I'd have to spend a bunch of time farming there. Now, one concern I have is about the balance between trade and non-trade players. In PoE1, you had
Me, when I used to play Diablo 2, I would never trade. I get really the satisfaction of playing the game and finding my own gear, okay? I would trade once in a while on like my main, but only if I really needed something for endgame and stuff. But I don't know how powerful trading is right now, and I feel like trading is like, so if you're just trying to do it by yourself, you won't get through. So I don't know how they're going to balance this, but yeah.
a lot of robust crafting options, such that if you were to be solo self-found, you could still get a lot of the gear that you need through deterministic crafting. But now in PoE2, we're largely at the mercy of RNG with our crafting. As far as I can tell, we actually don't really have any deterministic crafting options, or at least nothing robust, which means that trading is going to be even more powerful in PoE2. I'm not saying this is a problem or that anything should be changed here. It's just something that's on my mind. I'm currently
I really do think, like, in general, like, time will tell. And this is why the early access is for. We're just going to test things and we'll see how it goes, right? So, again, it's not a problem. But if trading is so overpowered, why would I farm, right? Why would I spend hours on a map and farm when I can just trade? So, yeah, we'll see how this
the
goes.
crafting options available to us. And I do like that we've actually done away with obscure vendor recipes that you need to memorize or reference external guides for, but I sometimes find myself wondering how much easier my playthrough would be if I engaged with trade.
So yeah, guys, here it is. I just wanted to react to Riker's video because I thought for me was the closest of what I'm thinking and what was my first experience with Path of Exile. Again, this is an early access. For sure, some builds are going to get shocked. If a build is overpowered, like, yeah, it's gonna have to get nerfed and we're gonna suffer. I would have liked them to see, like, hey, half gold on respec to, like, help us out a little bit. or maybe, I don't know, this month do a day where everyone can respect, or just to help us out for the like builds that are chalked. But otherwise than that, it's fine. Like, it is, if you're buying the game in early access, these things are going to happen, and you have to be okay with that. So far they've been responding to the community really well, so I'm really glad to see that. And like, I'm not even like shocked or anything. I have faith in GGGs for sure. I've been really loving the game. I'm really like feeling like I'm back in like 2009 playing Diablo 2 and having the time of my life. So I can't wait to see how the games evolve for sure. Remember, I do stream on Twitch and also YouTube at the same time, so you can see my live playthrough. I will restart as like a witch probably tonight or tomorrow. You can catch me there. And Exiles, I hope you have a good week.